What's up, everybody? Org the Pirate here, and today we're going to talk about the item system in Core. And guys, I highly recommend going and checking out the original video, or maybe going and checking out the video I did yesterday that kind of talked about all the different systems. I'm going to mainly focus on just my opinions instead of just breaking down what's happening. You're better off going to the real source to get that information. So, before we get into any of that, guys, I want to talk about this Twin Blast. Now check it out. He jumps there. Look at that jump, and then he does it back to back. That is crazy. Look at the distance that he cleared. Look at this. Look at this. 1, 2, 3. In 3 seconds, he's 1,000 miles. He's 2 football fields away. But you know, that's crazy. Hopefully, we see some changes with that, because if that's the case, they're going to definitely have to do something with Sparrow and Murdoch to make them even comparable. But, alright, let's get right into this. Now, I want to go over the icons a little bit real quick. Now, Conductive Power and Radiant Power. What I'm assuming is you will put on a damage item, like physical damage and energy damage. What that's going to do is give you the power in the respective things, since everybody's going to have different scaling. So, let's say you scale 2 to 1. If you put on 10 physical power, you will then get 20 conductive, or if you put on 10 physical damage, you will then get 20 conductive power, because you scale 2 to 1. Same with energy damage. Like, let's say Gideon, you know, back in the day, what he scaled at like 3.52 or something with his rocks, right? So let's just say 3. If you put on 10 energy damage, he will scale up 30 damage with his rocks. That's what I'm assuming, but that's the difference between damage and power. They didn't explain that, but I think that's a pretty good educated guess. There's 2 different types of penetration as well. There is, you know, of course, physical and energy pin, but one is physical penetration. It's just a flat pin, like, boom, you get 10 penetration. The other one is a percentage. So, let's say if you have 100 armor and I have 10 penetration, these are easy numbers, but if you have 100 armor and I have 10 penetration, whenever I shoot you, my bullets are going to ignore 10 points of your armor. So it's like you only have 90 armor when I'm hitting you. But with physical puncture, which is what he called this, if I have 10%, what that's going to do, it would still do the exact same, except, you know, if you had 200, I'm going to now ignore 20 of your armor. Instead, with flat pin, it would be the same. You would still, even if I had 200 armor, you'd still only ignore 10. The math behind that is way more complex than that. That was very simple. Hope y'all understand, but let's move on. So we've got energy and regular armor. One is against anti-mage, one is against anti, you know, basics. Attack speed, crit chance, crit damage, all pretty standard stuff. The first one that's pretty new is heal and shield power. We didn't really have that. They didn't go into detail about it, you know, other than boost effects of heals and shields. So something like this on someone like Muriel would be absolutely huge, or Phase. So we'll have to wait and see. But like, I'm thinking you might be able to put on a heal and shield power card, and then maybe use something like, you know, the original quenching scales, and instead of it just giving 100 health to everybody around you, it gives 150. You know, something like that. I have to see, you know, long ways away from a final product, guys. But the next one is true damage. Now, I've seen a ton of people not really fully understand true damage. We didn't have this in Paragon. What true damage does is it ignores armor, but is affected by mitigations. Now, there is a difference in armor and mitigation. So, let's say you have, you're playing a tank. Let's say you're playing steel, and you have 100 armor, and I come up and attack you with true damage. My attacks are going to ignore all of your armor, like you didn't have any on, because I'm doing true damage to you. So if I do 100 damage, you have 100 armor, I hit you, I'm still going to do my 100 damage. But there might be an item that says reduce incoming damage by 5%. If that's the case, when I hit you, even I will still ignore your 100 armor, but that hit will only do 95 damage to you because it was reduced by 5%. Hope that makes sense. That's kind of how true damage works in other MOBAs, and I think that's how it will work in Core. Spell Vamp is... it's lifesteal for abilities. You know, pretty standard stuff. Health regen. Now, cooldown reduction. This is a big one for me because Paragon did not have a whole lot of cooldown reduction. In the 6-card system, what, there were like 2 items? The Chronos Pendant and the Chronos whatever. One gave you like mana, one gave you mana regen or something like that. We didn't have a whole lot of cooldown reductions. Now, the thing that I don't like about this is, could you imagine like a Countess running around with a 30-second ult time? You know, or someone like Morgesh, whose Hive was already fairly quick. You know, it was like a 5-second cooldown, right? So could you imagine her having, you know, like, let's say a 30% reduction? She's going to get her mark back every, you know, 3.5 seconds. That's crazy. And not to mention her ultimate. So I think if we add a whole lot of cooldown items, we're going to see either mages have a much longer cooldown on their base abilities, you know, just base abilities are going to have long cooldowns, or we're going to see, you know, just mages, like everybody run mages, kind of like how, you know, just Smite, you know, you with Smite, you can build characters where they've got full cooldown, where their abilities are off cooldown every, like, 4 or 5 seconds, you know, so I don't want to see that. Hopefully we don't see that, but we'll have to see. The last thing is movement speed. Now, guys, I'm not a fan of movement speed. 6-card system didn't really have a whole lot of movement speed. And honestly, I cannot even remember a single item that was just like, here, have a bunch of movement speed. I don't like movement speed. I think it's just not enjoyable for me. So we'll have to see what comes of that. You know, V42 had a lot of movement speed, and I think it's pretty universal for everybody that played Paragon originally, you know, back in Legacy, or even in the 6-card system of Monolith. Everybody can agree that the movement speed was just way too fast in V42, and, you know, not just the hero movement speed, but the minions as well. And it looks like we are, with Core, we're getting a much more Legacy-style map, but with the movement speed of Monolith. I don't think we need any more movement speed. I've even seen people saying we need to slow it down. So, I'm kind of with them, guys. I'm not a big fan of that. Now, going over the artifacts. Artifacts are items in Core, or card system. Now, each one of these is an artifact, and, you know, you pick these artifacts up, you put them in these trees. Now, if you see here, there's 3 kind of ranks. They rank up, right? In this bottom rank, you can only have T1 items. In the middle, T2, top, T3. And so for a total of 18 items. Now, that does sound like a lot, but guys, if you remember, in the 3-card system, or in the 6-card system, we kind of really had 4 of these rankings. So these 3 plus another row. So, you know, we almost had 24 cards we put on, or we actually did. You know, the upgrade cards, like I guess the T2, T3, and T4 cards were really just flat upgrades. They didn't really add anything other than here's more power or health or whatever. But we did have that. And then at the final rank, when you got your bonus, so almost like a 5th tier or a discipline stone, like what they're having here, that could kind of be the bonuses that you got from cards. Sometimes they unlocked massive passives. Remember, Quenching Scales, once you got it to 7, boom, you get this big AoE heal. You know, Purity Sensor, once you got it online, you got, you know, you got your CC immune. Yeah, you might have got that from the beginning. But again, you had, we really had 4 different cards you put on per slot, plus a bonus when you put on all 4 cards. So, you know, I've seen a lot of people making a huge deal about this, but I don't see it as bad as some think, especially with the individual scaling that Core has promised so far. So, we'll have to wait and see. Alright, let's get into this right here. I wrote some notes down so I don't get any of the names wrong, but let's start out with the kind of red one. Now, I think you can pretty much pick the colors and associate them with Paragon, but we need to get into the core mindset. So these colors are called disciplines, and each discipline is a little bit different with a focus on a certain playstyle. Let's start out with the red one. The red one is called Dread, and it would associate to Chaos the most. Artifacts are more focused on empowering basic attacks, so Kawari, ADCs, those type of things. Next up we have Malnek, which I'm assuming is going to be Death, and these empower ability damage. Now, the way I'm seeing it is because both Malnek and our next one, Mystery, they both are more focused on ability. But I think Malnek is going to be more for burst. So again, Countess, Morgish, you're not as concerned with mana as you are with killing that person you're attacking. With someone like, Gadget, who's really a controller of that fight, she's not running in deleting people, she's really controlling the flow of the fight. You might pick up something more like Mystery or Intellect that has mana and mana regen, as well as has a focus around ability damage. And then we have Asher, which, I think Asher in order makes sense because weren't the Asher cards in order? I think that's right. But Asher, it's all about utility. Your cooldown reduction, your crowd control reduction, you're going to have some kind of immune ability. Just basically all your utility items, except wards. Wards are separate. Talk about those in a second. Lastly, we have Fortitude, which is growth. This is your tankier cards, your health, your sustain, your armor, things like that. So, again, if you're playing, let's say a ADC like Twin Blast, you probably definitely want to pick up Dread. And, you might want to stay away from Order because, again, these cards are more focused on utility. And as Twin Blast, you just want to worry about cranking out damage. That's kind of the way that looks like it's breaking down, and hey, I think it looks good. Again, we do see there is an effect one, these passives, and this is written in a language that Google doesn't understand. We've got these different values as well, and effect placeholder, so there's a lot of stuff on that window that we just don't know. But again, there's no way of telling, and it's a proof of concept. Now, here we go. We've got examples of 4 artifacts. We have the Crying Hand Cannon, Usurper's Flamethrower, Atomic Explosion, and Heart of the Jungle. And you can see T1, T2, T3, T2. So, again, this will correlate to that thing we had earlier, but these are the 3 that we really want to focus on. And you will not be able to put on the Usurper's Flamethrower until you have a Crying Hand Cannon equipped. Now, the way I understand it is, it doesn't have to be in the same discipline. You could put on Crying Hand Cannon, and then for your tier 2, put on the Heart of the Jungle that we saw a second ago. That doesn't really matter. The fact is you have to have a T1 on first, as you can see here, and then put a T2 on. Now, once you build all 3, a T1, a T2, and a T3, you will then have access to equip a Discipline Stone, which I think this is going to be a bonus. Now, what they actually said is Discipline Stones can be equipped if all 3 artifacts are from the same discipline and grant a small amount of advanced attributes, but it penalizes you if you sell the items. Now, that's one thing that I definitely wanted to talk about with Core. They're going to charge you to sell items. Now, we didn't have that ever in Paragon. Paragon never charged you, you never were penalized for building the incorrect item. I can't stand that in other MOBAs. I mean, straight out, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I think it really puts the mindset to people that, hey, you need to figure out how to build before the match even starts, right? It really, one good thing about it is it really teaches people what all the items do because you have to research all the items. But while you're in game, you might go, oh, wow, they had an Aurora. I should have built this way. And when you go back to base, you can go, do I want to lose, 700 gold because they have an Aurora? Or should I just suffer through it. Regardless of what the better option is, it doesn't matter. You conflict yourself because, you know, you don't want to... If you bought something from the store and took it back the next day and they charge you, you know, half of what it cost, yeah, that's going to upset you. I don't like this idea. I really hope you don't see it, because this is, you know, which again, this is how most MOBAs are, but I don't like it. So hopefully we see some changes with that. Lastly, we have consumables, which, let's go ahead and head back here. These two bubbles right here are going to be for consumables. Potion, elixir, and wards. Now, potions are pretty standard. You know, you have your health, your mana potion. They'll probably be a mixture of the two, you know, a multi-potion. Elixirs are potions, in a sense, consumables that you buy that give you something, right? They can give you more health, more damage, more you know, movement speed maybe. Who knows what these consumables will do, but they're not like a potion. They give you something in return for a chunk of money. You know, they're going to cost a lot more Ember than a potion would. And lastly, wards. Now, there's two types of wards. There are regular wards, which they said, hey, you can put them anywhere and just throw them down everywhere. And they didn't say there was a limit to how many you can put down either. So that's interesting. As well as there's discipline wards. Now, discipline wards are going to have an in-game effect. I don't know what that is. They were pretty vague about it. They said they still need to test it out a lot. I would assume that the discipline wards will be able to detect other discipline wards, so there might be some, you know, word placement and anti-warding. You know, that definitely needs to exist in the game. But I wouldn't say that's an effect. I would think that, like, maybe if you're standing close to the ward, you get 0.1 mana regen or something like that. I don't know how I feel about that. Definitely need some testing, and I'm interested in what they're testing. Now, that's pretty much it, except one thing, guys. Now, this system right here, I think could work very, very well. Just like I said, it's not that different from Paragon's system. You know, we had our base card that you put on, you put 3 upgrades in, and then you got a bonus. So in Paragon, we actually had more than this. We had more than just 18. We had 24 cards that you put on. So, 24 cards and 6 bonuses. So you could really, even though there were only 60 card points, you could really have 66, depending on how you built. I don't see a problem with this, but I do see a problem with this right here. The Discipline Stone, where you have to build 3 T1s in the same discipline to get access to the Discipline Stone. If that stays in, this right here will never ever happen. You know, maybe on a supports case where, you know, that Discipline Stone just isn't really super helpful, but for the most part, everybody's going to build the best way they can, and this is going to be it, because you get free stuff. Free stuff is never bad, and I think this, you know, letting people be able to build any way they want, that either needs to be where everybody gets you know, if you put a third one in here from let's say well, this one's probably Fortitude, but let's say you put an Asher one in here, you should also get access to that stone, because this right here is going to push new players away. This is way more complicated than new players are going to be able to wrap their head around. Because they're going to see this box right here and go, why can't I put stuff in there? And then, you know, spend 10 minutes on Google and then just say, I'm quitting the game. Because, you know, that's what happened in Paragon. I really think that this, just the idea behind stacking these up, I do like it. Don't get me wrong. I think it's great. But I don't think it's player friendly because, yeah, you're going to build the best way possible, and not getting access to an item is not the best way possible. And it's just that kind of simple. So, that's just kind of my thoughts, guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. We've got one more proof of concept, and I will be going over that. We're kind of got some things lined up with the For the Winions stream that I'm going to do with Mongoose and Mandy Mall, so keep tuned in for that one, guys. And again, we're not going to just cover core. We're going to cover all all the games that just pique our interest. And, you know, guys, I'm super, super excited for all of this. And I really hope to see, I would really like to see Core or Metabuff come out with maybe an updated, like, not really proof of concept, but just an update as to what they've changed, you know, maybe next month or something like that. Go, hey, we've listened to the community, and this is what we think. Because I think this system could work. I don't like this. I don't think it's going to be player friendly. But we'll see. So, thanks for watching, guys. And as always, I'll see y'all in the next video.